Let's get into our top 5. This is one that I came up with, and I've been kind of chewing on this one for a little bit. Snap recently celebrated a year. So I thought to myself, let's take a look at the last year and rank our personal top 5 cards. Our top 5 may not line up with yours, but we're looking at all the cards that released in the last year since November of 2023. Also on the board are any cards that may have been around but got modified in some way.
Oh, my list just got downvoted on Reddit.
Oh, no. It's not surprising. That was me, by the way. I downvoted.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, well, you would know better than a lot of them.
Cards out there that may have been around, but also have got a recent update to where they're a lot more useful. So if you're ready, I mean, you got any comments before we hop into, like, did you use any weird criteria or anything like that to come up with your list?
I came up with this list pretty fast, and then I added a few onto it. I just went with the cards that had the biggest impact for me and the game.
Okay. All right. I will say that I knew what my number 1 was going to be. It wasn't too hard to come up with number 2. I struggled with the first 3. So I'll go ahead and start things out here. Let me grab my list. All right. That is not my list.
Quicksilver.
All right. Number 5. Rock. Number 5. I'm going to go with Copycat.
Yeah.
Copycat was introduced. What season was that? Was that the
that was the Deadpool season?
Maximum Effort. So I didn't know if I would like this card. Originally, when she came out, it was always the bottom card of the other player's deck, but she would also negate it completely.
Yep. She would steal the ability.
Was it always the bottom card, or was it just like a random? Okay.
It was always the bottom card.
So grabs the bottom card of the deck, steals the ability, which negates that ability for that other person. Copycat has that now. I find she's been a lot of fun to have. I've got her in the aforementioned Sarah Surfer deck. She's in there because she can, she's 3 cost, she's 5 power. And if she's stealing an ability from somebody, she's just basically copying that ability, and that person keeps it. The other advantage is it gives you a glimpse into what that deck is right off the bat. You don't have to play anything. You don't have to play Yondu. You don't have to play Cable. You've got Copycat starting in your hand. Boom. You may get a good glimpse as to what you're about to go up against. And it's fun to kind of see that person's bottom card and know that most likely they're never going to get to that card. Now you got it in your hand. I've enjoyed Copycat. I went through this list, and she barely made the cut above a few others. I'll do my honorable mentions at the end of this. My number 5 is Copycat. So you're next. What's your number 5?
Number 5 for me, and I think it was released this past year. I did not do a good job. I kind of skimmed through the list you did, but yep, he's on the list, and he definitely had a resurgence recently. We've already talked about him, War Machine.
War Machine.
When they returned him to an ongoing, he became a lot more useful. I think they tried to dial him back a little at first, and he was fun to try as an on reveal, but there's too many things left to chance. When he went back to an ongoing, I started using him, caught the wave at the right moment, and went to Infinite with that one. Even though they did change Storm, just him having Infinite and Ebony Maw as running mates, and being able to get into locations you normally can't. Even playing Goose with him can throw a wrinkle into it. So I just think they finally got him working the way he was supposed to originally, and a pretty effective card. And really kind of went from obscurity to, I wonder if I can do anything with War Machine, to being a power player.
Yeah. I wanted to get my hands on him. I couldn't spend the keys or tokens to get him when he was released originally. I ended up with him this season. I was so excited because I got War Machine. I can't wait to use him. What am I going to do with him? And yeah, he was able to give me the opportunity to advance pretty quickly. Definitely a good pick.
Plus, Jesse, for you, if you want to, you can pretend it's Frank Castle in the suit.
That's right, I can.
Because that happened.
Yes, it did. I've got the War Machine. Well, I got the Frank Castle War Machine Funko Pop sitting upstairs. Somebody got me that for Christmas. Okay, well then, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Let's see. You might want to step away because this might make you feel bad. But my number 4 is Cassandra Nova.
Boy, I hated Cassandra Nova. I hated not getting her. I still hate watching her pop onto the board because I'm playing like a regular deck now. She's only getting like 4 power when she drops, and I'm so happy about that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, she's almost in that lane of Gore and Sebastian Shaw in terms of characters I dislike so much from the comics, but she's really useful. I mean, you're not missing out on anything. Some people might say that she gives you a chance to ding every card in the deck, and if you can use her power again, even though the number of cards you're affecting is going lower, her number is just going higher. I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, I wouldn't worry about it. And she works well with Ajax, and I found that she's pretty good to team with Darkhawk and Rockslide and Korg, because you're not only chucking rocks in, but they go from 0 and start having negative power. You're building up the size of those decks.
It's evil.
Well, so is Cassandra Nova.
True. Good point.
So, I mean, but who wants to be the bad guy anyway, Jesse? I mean, you don't need her. Who needs Cassandra Nova when you've got Nova? Okay.
Go back to Maximum Effort, folks, for more of that joke. All right, good pick. My number 4, and again, if we have any overlap, let me know. We'll pause it and then we'll talk about it when it gets to the higher. But my number 4 out of this past year is Gladiator.
I forgot Gladiator fell into this past year.
I hate it when he's used against me because he drives me insane. Gladiator, 3 cost, 8 power. Gladiator grabs a card out of your opponent's deck, throws it onto the board, and then if Gladiator's power is higher, the card gets to do its own reveal, but it immediately gets destroyed if it can't compete. Now, of course, it's fun to watch if you've got Infinite in your deck and he pulls that Infinite. That's hilarious. Regardless, he has made an impact. I love using him. He's 3 cost, 8 power. So it's a lot of power. Plus, you're getting rid of a card in your opponent's deck. And it could be, it could be Super Patriot every single time. It could be Patriot. It could
be a Savage Dragon.
It could be Savage Dragon. Although I think they met, didn't they? No, it was Supreme and Gladiator that met in a crossover there. It wasn't Savage Dragon and Gladiator, but Supreme and Gladiator fought. But anyway, I mean, he's a thorn in your side, but if you got him on your team, you can knock out an opponent's card, and hopefully it's a key card out of that person's deck. So there you go. There's Gladiator.
I was pumped when he came out. I like him. I always try to find a spot for him in my decks. I even love when he doesn't get to blast the card, the little number signs indicating swear word. It pretty much captures what you're feeling in that moment. He's a fun card, another good running mate for Fenris Wolf. You're hoping to get something a little more powerful than an 8, but still. I figure you just put Fenris in with any deck that's going to start messing up your opponent's cards, and then just pull one back and rub their face in it. The original Gladiator card looks pretty cool. The Dan Hip one was even better, and I didn't think anything would unseat that until that Ryan Benjamin variant that was in one of the Spotlight caches. That thing is flipping awesome.
Is it? Nice.
Oh, yeah. So, Gladiator is good stuff. He might have made mine, but he just felt so long ago, and I like him a lot, but he doesn't always have the impact.
All right.
For me, anyway.
Well, speaking of impact, we're not talking Cyberforce here. We are talking Cannonball for number 3.
Ah, yes.
Cannonball had to be on my list as a personal favorite just because it was Cannonball that shot me into Infinite for the one and only time that I've been in Infinite. So I've got to give Cannonball some credit here. Cannonball, before all the Professor X nerf started to happen, Cannonball was essential by hitting your opponent's highest cost card somewhere. And if they couldn't go anywhere, then that highest power card gets destroyed and replaced with a rock. I love facing high evolutionary decks. Lock it down with Professor X and then destroy their 20 power Hulk that they thought was going to kill me and turn it into a rock. It was the greatest thing ever. Before they did the nerf, it took me all the way to Infinite. They were like, Jesse got Infinite. We need to change this game. So there you go. My number 3, Cannonball.
I got in on the magic of Cannonball for almost 2 days before they nerfed him. But he still has his uses. He's a good running mate for Scream, and it's not as easy to destroy a card with him, but he still has that ability. So maybe he's another one to pair with Fenris.
That's a good point. All right, what's your number 3, sir?
Number 3. Fairly, there may be some recency bias here, but just in terms of how often I used her and how effective she was, I got to give it to Scream.
I wondered if she was going to make the list. Yeah, she's an impact player, man.
Definitely an impact player. Got me to infinite pretty darn fast. Other than Red Guardian, it's hard to totally shut her down. Like you said, even with Luke Cage, you're not losing power, but she's still gaining it. She is someone you have to account for, because unless it's Arishem or, just unless she was randomly generated, there's cards that are going to be moving you around.
Yeah. And she makes a move deck really effective.
Yeah. And like you said, when they're doing that, it can mess up all kinds of your strategy too. She's not only effective, but the cards needed to make her effective can cause you all sorts of other problems too.
Great pick, and very recent.
And I mean,
too.
And again, not just for me, but I mean, we've seen her all over the place. She's made an impact on the game. It's not just one of these weird cards that I like and keep trying to make work.
All right then. So that was your number 3. Let's hear your number 2.
Another recent addition, and another one based on not only how often I use her, but how often I see her, is Silver Sable.
Wow. Okay.
I see Silver Sable all the time still. I put Silver Sable if I'm looking for a 1-cost card. I know some people don't believe in that, but I'm looking for a 1-cost. She's one of my first picks. She works with Ajax. She boosts her own power up. She takes power from somebody else. Great running mate for Symbiote Spider-Man because she's low cost. So, usually she'll be a 1/3. You activate him, and suddenly you got a 12 power card that doesn't have the 1-cost glass jaw. I've seen her a lot. She works. I mean, there's decks that she has more synergy with, but there's not many decks that you're like, oh no, you don't want to use her.
Right.
We were talking about Malekith earlier, and like, well, okay, you don't want this card, you don't want that card. Okay, she's not going to steal energy from a card your opponent might use, but she's still going to get her bonus.
She'll get the bonus after it.
So, yeah, she just works with just about any deck. And again, not only am I using her a bunch, but I'm seeing her all over the place too.
She's perfect for a no-fun deck, I think. I've used her quite a bit in that. And yeah, recent release, definitely a good pick. She's versatile, can go in any deck practically. I like it. All right, my number 2. And we have talked about this card quite often. So again, if it's on your list, let me know. But there's always a use for Red Guardian.
he almost made my list.
Wow.
Thunderbolt really seems so long ago. But there's another Thunderbolts on my honorable mentions.
I cannot tell you how many jams Red Guardian has got me out of. When I started this list, there were 2 cards. I knew my number 1 and I knew my number 2.
I think I know your number 1 as well.
All right. We'll see. I have Red Guardian, love laying Red Guardian out when Deadpool's out there. I love knocking that.
Oh, yeah.
You talked about that before. I've done it. I love it. We talked about Patriot. Patriot gets out there. I've done the same thing with Patriot. Knocked him down because he's only 1 power. So he's always going to be the low guy out there usually. And he's boosted everybody else out. Red Guardian, boom, take him out. Sunspot. Wolverine. Watching Wolverine actually die is fun. He gets destroyed and he's gone. You won't see him again because Red Guardian had the opportunity to smack him with his shield. The other card that I was thinking of, Kazar, gets dropped.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 4/4. He's fairly big, and sometimes he's not going to be boosting up, but all of a sudden Mystique gets laid out there or something along those lines. And now all these 1-cost cards are like at a 5 power. Kazar's on the table. Here comes Red Guardian. And I have saved Red Guardian so many times because I know what the other deck is going to be. I'd sit there and go, okay, I'm holding back because at some point there's something that's going to get laid out there. Discard decks with Invisible Woman, Red Guardian.
Oh, yes.
Red Guardian. So as far as cards that have made their way into my deck and have been used over and over and over, and it's so fun to use, and just ruin somebody else's day. Red Guardian is at number 2 for me. So
you're almost convincing me. I know I had him at one point, and I was like, well, he's useful everywhere, but he doesn't have quite the same impact as Scream or War Machine. I don't know. Maybe I've just gotten so used to using him. He's up there with Luke Cage and Silver Sable and ones that can go in just about any deck. I guess because what is sharing opinions online if not to create arguments? I'll push back with 2 things.
Okay.
Every time he does something awesome, I'm like, yeah, Red Guardian. Man, he's almost too good. And then it's like, but he always hits the lowest power card. So he's kind of a bully. And this is a comic accurate costume for the most recent Red Guardian, but there's not a lot of red in his costume. Okay. It's primarily black. Like they have an emote with him, and I still have to remind myself it's Red Guardian because there's no red visible.
Yeah.
So I do use Red Guardian a lot. I have ink split him, and my ink split Red Guardian with the faded, or distress is the word I'm looking for, but it's just red matte. But my point is, I'm sending you 2 images of Red Guardian, the original and my ink split. Now, will you tell me which one looks more red?
It's almost like the ink split has more red on it. Well, that's clear.
With the red matte border has more red than Red Guardian. Wait a minute, I'm starting to come around because in that regard, he reminds me of the Blue Raja from Mystery Men. Which, if you didn't feel old yet today, came out 25 years ago.
Ew, man.
Okay, well, we've gotten completely off the chart there. I have argued against your logical and very sensible inclusion of Red Guardian on this list with straw men and tangents galore. But I think that we should both go ahead and say our number 1 card at the same time. I am that confident that it will be the same one.
All right.
And if it's not, you can always go back and edit it so that we don't sound like idiots.
All right.
So or you can leave it in and probably make for even better content.
So I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, and then after 1, we'll say it. You ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, Arishem.
Arishem.
There it is. Perfect. So I assume, I'll let you go here because really I think what you're going to say is everything that I'm going to say. I just sneezed. Sorry. Funny.
Allergies are kicking my butt. Okay, so what was your number 1?
Arishem. Bless you.
Gesundheit. You too. Okay, yes. Arishem.
Arishem, man. You have the floor here, sir.
If you're going with cards that got used a lot and impacted the game and for a week or so changed the game, cards were resurrected, nerfed again, kicked in the stomach. We all got excited about Blob. They nerfed him. We all stopped using Blob. We're like, go over there in the corner. We don't like you anymore. And we were all like, wait a minute. I've got all these cards that I'm never going to use. Blob should eat them.
Yes.
So there's one deck where Blob, who was briefly the belle of the ball, came back and they were like, nope, we got to stop this. But he's still there. I mean, M'Baku was good, but what if you could, I'm always happy to see M'Baku, but it's really best when he shows up at the end. Let's make it harder for M'Baku to get in your deck, or let's open up the possibility of 2 M'Bakus jumping in at the end of the game.
Perfect.
And yeah, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff, or you could have extra power. It gives you a +1 power every turn, and your cards are too high a cost to get any of them out. Or you can dump all your cards out and they're all 1 and 2 costs and not doing a thing. Or there's a good mix of costs, but none of the cards work together. Or sometimes things just happen magically and everything works out. Or you're a jerk and draw Loki and copy your opponent's deck, but you've got 1 more energy than them every turn.
Mm-hmm.
And then Darkhawk, who was a bully, is suddenly the hero because he can punch Arishem right in the jaw. And Cassandra Nova, some people say she's a good way to teach Arishem a lesson. I don't know about that.
Man, I hated that when that was going on. That almost made me go, I don't want to play Arishem anymore because Cassandra Nova's out here going up to 17 and taking everything from my cards. But whatever, I don't need her.
Yeah, and you know what? When she does that, Shang-Chi will put her in her place.
I hope so.
And folks, that's not misogynistic because she's evil and more powerful than most dudes, okay? In her nose, bad news, and I can dislike her just as much as I can Sebastian Shaw, okay?
True. It's all true.
But she's way more dangerous than Sebastian Shaw.
True. That's undoubted.
You know what? Better hair.
Oh, look out.
I think we've lost the plot again. Jesse, what do you like about Airsham?
Airsham. Oh my gosh, man. We were so excited when this card dropped because you get this little bit of extra power. With high voltage just recently, we're kind of spoiled. But when you have that little bit of extra power, now you can lay these 2-cost cards down on turn 1, and you're going to have 7 power on turn 6. It ignited this thought of like, okay, this changes the game now that we have more power to get things started a little bit earlier. I can get Mr. Negative out there earlier, although you probably wouldn't want to do Mr. Negative with what's going on. But you get all these extra cards that you may not, it's not just cards that you own. Some of these cards are cards you do not own. And what I started to find is that as random as all this is, I'm still winning games. It all comes down to the power use, I believe. And I'm still able to pull these games off and win and get to experience different combos. Sometimes you'd have a card, you'd pull a card and you'd just be like, this makes no sense with the rest of these things. And you'd be able to play it. And lo and behold, oh, wow, this actually worked pretty decent. So you may actually be able to find different, newer combos that you may have had, or maybe this card feels like it could fit into another deck. It allowed you to experiment, and it allowed you to learn more about different cards, how they interact, and it also gave you the opportunity to do stuff that you normally wouldn't do in other decks. Everybody was like, Airsham, oh my gosh, let's get a hold of Airsham because we're going to have all these cards in our decks. And it is nice to have, the standard deck was Airsham and Mockingbird hanging out for sure, and Quinjet was in there to lower things down. I didn't understand the Loki combo. You just said it, but I know that Loki was...
So Loki reduces your deck to a standard size and copies your opponent's decks. In theory, you've got a cohesive deck all of a sudden that reduces their cost by 1, and then you've got 1 extra power. So you can play their deck, but more.
Gotcha. I played with Mark's son, Jonas.
Uh-huh.
Jonas, very novice as far as things go in regards to playing Snap. He's, he just started. He's not spending money on it, not investing a whole lot of time like we are. When I played a live game on YouTube with him, he had just gotten Airsham as well. So we both had Airsham decks, and he beat me. It was a lot of fun, but with somebody that's brand new to the game, imagine not having a majority of the cards that are out there. You only have maybe 70% of the cards, maybe less than that. If you've got Airsham in your deck, you're going to be able to do a lot more things, or at least get a taste for everything that's out there. Mm-hmm. So 100% belongs. Number 1, they did a great job with it. I don't know if there'll be that clear of a winner next year. I don't know, but 100% agree. Airsham number 1. So let's get into our honorable mentions. That's the words I'm looking for. So I'll go ahead and start. I initially had Agent Venom as number 5, but I took Agent Venom off of there because I haven't found them very useful. I haven't found Agent Venom very useful in any deck other than the Sarah Surfer deck that I've got him in right now. Blob was almost on the list as well. Even they had to nerf him once or twice. But yeah, having Blob there along with Airsham was something else. If you're wanting a big time card, Blob was the way to go. My third was Beta Ray Bill. And
yes.
Those Beta Ray Bill decks, Wong involved, and some of the stuff you'd see on Reddit with Beta Ray Bill involved was insane. Watching Beta Ray Bill's power double was just crazy. And then here comes the Living Tribunal. It's like, okay, those are my 3 runners up. So what do you got on your runners up?
Well, I thought real hard about putting Symbiote Spider-Man on there as the first Activate card. It was even better than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was a glorified Hulkbuster. I've had a lot of fun with him. Scorn, this card never went away, but she really injected some excitement into that and gave you some different things to play with. And then White Widow has been one that I've used a lot. I know some people were disappointed with the way they nerfed her, where the card just disappears totally instead of going to a 0. But at some point it occurred to me, you follow White Widow up with Red Guardian, and suddenly it's a -6 that won't disappear.
I've done that once.
Or you put armor down before or after, and it can't go away.
Armor's a good one, yes.
White Widow I found to be really useful, and I guess if Annihilus was in that season, Annihilus really, I mean, now he's kind of settled in. You see him every once in a while, but you're not like, oh man, Annihilus is coming. You're not as worried as you were, but especially when he first came out, he really changed the game a lot.
Well, that's a great runner-up list. Great top 5.
Great topic.
We are done with this. Let's go ahead and get into plugs here. So, Evan Bevins, let them know where they can find the blog *51 and anything else you got going on out there in podcast land.
*51.blogspot.com. I took the break from the Amalgam stuff in October to do a lot of Halloween comics and movies, but now I'm getting ready to go back with JLX Unleashed #1, which I believe you and Mr. Armstrong covered on Unspoken Issues at some point, right?
Yeah, we did. It was a while back.
We got 6 of those left to round out the Amalgam experience. Looking at something new to get into for the new year. We have this, and I show up on some of your shows to talk about various and sundry comics. Mark Radulich and I just did, he called it On Trial for Big Hero 6, although we really didn't have much to debate on it. I told him it should have been the pilot for a new podcast called Darn You Hollywood, but maybe he's still thinking about that. It's always good to check out the Magazines and Monsters podcast, even when I'm not on there. Billy's kind enough to have me on to discuss the late, great Bob Haney on The Brave and the Bob, some crazy 60s and 70s DC comics that are just, reminds me why I love comics in the first place.
That's right. If you're listening to this, you're most likely listening to the Source Material Comics podcast feed. We appreciate you checking it out. The Source Material Comics podcast mainly focuses on comic books of any era. As Evan said, he's been on a few of those. He's been on a few of the other 90s-centric podcasts called Unspoken Issues. He's been there as well. So those both are on the feed. And of course, the Snap Material Comics podcast. You're listening to us talk about Snap. We'll be back here next month. I guarantee it to be talking about the next upcoming season and what we've experienced here with the War of the Nine Realms. So with that being said, that is Evan Bevins. I'm Jesse Starcher. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.